Even though this doesn't really relate directly to writing at all, I wanted to give a little bit of a health update. Anyone who knows me well knows that for the past probably 3 years now, I've been quite poorly often. I've had an umbilical hernia, and this has caused me a great deal of pain. There's a settee behind me, the one with the purple cushions on it. I've spent so many days laid on that settee using a laptop because I've been physically unable to sit up or stand up. The pain was so bad, and if I stood up or sat up, with time the pain would increase and increase and increase, and I'd start to be sick as well, which was really quite unpleasant. So that's been going on for 3 years, and it has gradually definitely got worse. On the 10th of June, I was in significant amount of pain, and usually in the past when my hernia has come out, it's like being bulgy, but when I've laid down, I think with gravity, eventually with time, that hernia is sunk back in, and the relief from pain has been wonderful. But on the 10th of June, the hernia popped out and stayed out, and it was out all day long, all night, and the pain was just absolutely awful. With a hernia pain, it feels like somebody shot a fiery red hot cannonball straight through your stomach. It's an enormous amount of pain. So I was also being sick a lot, with bile all on the 10th, all through the day and through the night. And it got to about 5 a.m. on the 11th of June, and I spoke to my fiance Chris, and I said, I think I'm actually going to call 111. In the 3 years whilst I've been poorly, to be fair, it was in my own hands. I could have at any point booked into a hospital and asked for this hernia to be repaired, but I was terrified of hospitals and anything medical, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I think some of my fear over hospitals and medical stuff was the lack of control, and the fact that things are kind of just done to you, and everything's so quick in hospitals, and staff are so rushed, and you don't have time. I kind of wanted somebody to stop and explain everything to me and give me various options, and I appreciate that's not always possible, but that's what I wanted, and I didn't want that just lack of control over handing over your health and body just to other people to kind of deal with and treat. So that's why I put it off. In the run up to the 10th and 11th of June, I had actually booked a doctor's appointment because I was aware this pain was getting worse and it just wasn't getting any better, and I was physically too poorly to go to the doctor's appointment. So I changed it, booked it for the next day, but like I say, on the morning of the 11th of June, about 5 a.m, we called 111, and within 15 minutes an ambulance had arrived and they took me to hospital. There were 3 paramedics, all brilliant. I had a cannula put in my hand with anti-sickness drugs in. I think I just had paracetamol pain relief. I refused at the time morphine, but I kind of wish I'd had it. So if ever you're in a situation where you're offered morphine in hospital, I would say take it. So anyway, we were taken to A&E, and we did spend about 13 hours in A&E. I was really, really lucky there in that they put me in a tiny little private room because I wasn't able to sit up or stand, so I needed to lay down, and we had this little room to ourselves, which was an absolute blessing given how busy A&E was with everybody else. So I do feel very, very lucky that we had that, and probably my experience was much better because of that individual room. I was being sick with bile in that little room, and without going into too much detail, it was quite worrying because that really wasn't a good colour, and I was aware that at that point I really did need to be in hospital, and I really did need some treatment. Things just weren't looking good health-wise at all. It was quite a shock, and I did think, yeah, I am in the right place and I should be here at the moment. Anyway, long story cut shorter, I had all blood tests done, I had a CT scan done, and the scan did show that I had some bowel trapped in my hernia, so there was an intestinal blockage, and that can be quite dangerous indeed. It was good that that was spotted and recognised, and I was told that yes, we are likely going to operate. A surgeon came to see me. He manipulated my hernia and actually managed to push it back in temporarily, and it kind of went back in with a squelch. And that was a good thing. It was like, oh, okay, so we've perhaps solved the issue. I was kept in overnight for monitoring, and the very next morning I could already feel that that hernia was back out again. Another surgeon came along and he said, well look, he said, if you go home, you're not even going to get 5 minutes at home before this pops out again. He said, so it would be good to get this operated on and dealt with. So as obviously, as scared as I was, at that point I was kind of relieved to know that yes, this would be operated on, it would be resolved, because I was scared of going back home and exactly the same thing happening. So the bowel getting trapped in the hernia again, being in such a significant amount of pain and just vomiting bile constantly. I hadn't eaten anything for 3 solid days, couldn't even keep water down because I was just vomiting like straight back up. And that again was a sign that something really wasn't right at all. So anyway, I think later that evening, I think it was the 12th, I had the operation done. The surgical team were absolutely fantastic, really patient, really understanding, lovely people. The ward that I went on to, I can't quite remember its name, but something like emergency surgical admissions unit or something like that. The staff on there were absolutely brilliant again. There was a really wonderful nurse on there called Amy, who couldn't be better suited to her job. She was absolutely fantastic. She had a sense of humour, she was caring, she was honest, straightforward, really lovely. So that was all good. Had the operation, that went well. I think I was in surgery longer than, or maybe recovery, longer than my family expected me to be. I know my mum was quite worried because I wasn't straight out and, but anyway, that was all good. I did actually end up spending my birthday in hospital, which obviously hadn't anticipated or expected, because I was still recovering the next day. And then I was allowed home the following afternoon. So I was in hospital 3 days altogether, or 3.5 days. But long story short, everything is good. It's been repaired. They've put a bit of mesh in. I had like a kind of almost eyelid shaped scar around the top of my belly button, and that is healing beautifully. It obviously had like stitches in when I first came out, and I had a lot of bruising everywhere. So I had bruising around my tummy, had bruising all on my hands. When I was in hospital, nobody seemed to be able to get any blood out of my arms, and it could have been through dehydration perhaps. So I had a lot of cannulas in both hands, and they were very bruised. When I came out, they took a good 2 and a bit weeks to try and get rid of the bruising. To me, the scar on that is healing perfectly. I've been told not to lift anything heavier than a kettle for 6 weeks. And so Chris has been wonderfully helping with all the gardening and helping, with other stuff that's heavy. He's cut all the lawns front and back. So yeah, that's about it. On the upside, I'm super relieved to have had this operation done. So hopefully I know that I'm not going to, have that trapped bowel again. And I'm not in any pain. When I first came out of hospital, obviously having your stomach cut open is a bit sore, but there is no longer that hernia pain, and I'm in no pain whatsoever. Haven't taken a painkiller for, weeks and weeks now, which is really good. I was very tired when I first came out of hospital, but I'm fine now. I no longer need to lay on the settee to do work. I'm able to sit up and do things and walk about. And one of the key things is that not everything needs to revolve around my hernia pain now. For the past 3 years, I've been quite sort of cautious about going anywhere or committing to doing anything, because I've never known until that day how much pain I would be in and whether I'd be able to manage to stand up or sit up to do those things. So it is like a whole new lease of life to no longer be in pain. Okay, quite a long video, I shall end now, but just suffice to say, it is lovely to be pain-free, and I'm really, really grateful for all the treatment I had in hospital. Thank you.